Hey guys, welcome back to another epic video. This video, as you can probably tell by whatever I named the title, we're gonna be taking a look at both of the two lore events. We'll be taking in everything that happened from order to not order. And yeah, I won't make another lore video about this funny creature game until we get more information. But for now, yeah, let's just start it. So, it's the beginning of the universe, everything's just pitch black, and there's these 8 forces. 8 forces, each like 8 like gods. There's Serphilius, Leviathan, sorry if I get some of these wrong, Farhas, Zohutek, Qualhul, Morsvuk, Omnibus, and Nuxa. So these creatures, as of now, are just 8 gods. Later on, they would be known as the 8 Wardens. However, as of right now, they did not have that title. They were just 8 big guys. And then, eventually, the Wardens create a bunch of things. So, each of the Wardens give themselves a form. Serphilius gives himself the form of the Angelic Warden. Leviathan gives himself the form of Aegon. Veteran Farhas. Ardor Zohutek. Boreal Warden Qualhul. Gar Warden Morsvuk. Novus Warden Omnibus. Hellion Warden Nuxa. So, the 8 Wardens have their forms. And the Wardens create 8 the Wardens create 9 planets. 8 for each of the other planets, and one that we're gonna get into a little bit because that's a very special planet. The Wardens also create their own auroras. It's unknown what else the Wardens have. It's theorized that they may have their own nebulas, but I'm pretty sure they don't, because there's a nebula called the Warden's Nebula, which I'm pretty sure is the first thing that the Wardens made when they all came together. So the Warden's Nebula is when all the Wardens came together. Now, so, yeah. Now, the Wardens created all these planets out of, like, their desires. This 9th planet, they just made out of thin air. This planet, we don't really know too much about. All we know is that there are these little tiny things, called life seeds. And they're like the first life that has ever existed. Now, on each of these planets, life seeds exist. Whenever a life seed is on a planet of the Wardens, it will transform into a creature of that respected Warden. So, just as an example, Yosog, Yosog, which is like an icy, like, creature, came from Quahal's planet, the Boreal Warden's planet. Sanctor, and actually pretty much all the Howling creatures came from Gara's planet. It's also why Wardens are always the most expensive creature. Now, on this 9th planet, whenever life seeds existed, the Wardens would come to them and then tell them to follow their ways to become a different creature. So there are many different creatures that can be created from this. Usually these creatures appear as more normal than the ones, like some are going to appear super heavenly, are like super like demonic on other planets, since like they're super shown into one area. Since you have a mix of all of them on Sonaria, you have, you know, a wider range of creatures that could exist, and that creates a whole new ecosystem. So at this point, there's like 7 creatures, each one for a few wardens. The first warden that actually never mind, that was just a game. The wardens start making dolls of themselves. So all the wardens started creating smaller, like much weaker versions of themselves that are like 1/1,000,000th of their true power, that serve as cameras, as small little cameras that are like, you know, they have decent power. They're not that strong though. I'm being chased by a Sturby. Oh my god. Yeah, they're just served as cameras. Yeah, but each of them is supposed to somehow represent their warden's actual shape. So the closest thing that we actually know of the wardens is their shrine and what they actually look like in the game. Because in game, that's just their puppets. That's not actually them. You don't actually get to play as the gods that made Sonaria. They are much more powerful than the little things that you get to play as. So, yeah. That's kind of what happens in Sonaria. So, yeah, everything's about normal at this point. Sonaria is just thriving with a few creatures. And that's very epic. Boreals made puppets, yada yada yada. Okay, so at this point, there are a few more creatures being made. Oh crap. This is always where I get messed up. Present day Sonaria is one I just, we don't know much more about present day Sonaria. Okay, so, okay, the wardens made puppets, yada yada. Okay, yeah. So there's a few creatures on Sonaria. And those few creatures are very much expanding on the groups that they have. So like hundreds upon hundreds of certain areas. Now at this point, nothing special has happened yet. I'm just gonna steal this Boreal Warden's eggs real quick. Yep. Yep, no eggs for you. Yep, yep, yep. 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 Yeah. So, at this point, Sonaria isn't doing, it's kind of like failing, or like nothing interesting's happening. So the Wardens create their first big new thing. The Wardens completely recreate Sonaria out of the ground that was already made there. So it used to be made out of empty void, now it's made out of non-empty void. So now the entire the island of Sonaria is actually starting to do pretty good. And now we should also probably talk about species outside of Sonaria. Now, we don't know of any islands outside of Sonaria, but we have been hinted of some, like a big Colosseum island that we can see whenever Blood Moon's happening. But yeah, that's epic. What was it? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so most of these islands are like, we can't go to them. We can't go to actually any of them. However, there are really different creatures over here. Some islands were said that the smallest creature there would have been about the size of a Boreal Warden. just imagine a Manawi the size of a boreal warden. Now picture a Caldon Terrace. Imagine how big Caldon Terrace would be if a Manawi was the size of a boreal warden. That's not even it. They get way bigger than Caldon Terrace. There are some creatures out there that are so big that the entire island of Sonaria could ride on their backs. Remember, there's an entire jungle here. There's an oasis, an entire desert over here. There's a volcano here. This is a big island. Creature's gonna just pick it up on its back. Big turtle just comes, pick it up. It is crazy. It is absolutely absurd how big some creatures are in this game. It is mind-blowing. So, yeah. They're the creatures outside. Anyways, after this rework, there are 8 shrines. Now, as of right now, the shrines are donated food, but they don't really do anything. They're just infused with a little tiny bit of the warden's power. So you can actually kind of see them. Now, it's at this point where we start getting some warden drama. So there's this little warden called Omnibus. And everybody starts getting mad at Omnibus. By that I mean people start calling him fake wardens. All the wardens stop thinking of him as a real warden. Call him a faker, not a real warden. Just a fake warden. So there are a few theories on why this is. The first is that the wardens were wrong, and the second is that Omnibus started as just a normal creature. But since it followed the ways of the wardens, and then became like similar to a warden of its own in a sense. I just think that the wardens were wrong. Look at the chat. Kill the fab. I'm gonna eat it one day. It's gone, dude. Yeah, so where was I? Boreal. Yeah, people keep thinking Omnibus is fake. So Omnibus is battered and beat down, broken, and then chained down to its shrine. So as you can tell, being a fake warden wasn't exactly, you don't exactly get treated very luxuriously. Stratophilus. So, yep, that's about the life of Omnibus right there. Not a great one. Yeah, and then the new stuff is very epic when it's so new. I don't even know what I'm saying. Help me. I've lost my train of thought and I'm dying. Okay, yeah. Omnibus situation. The only other thing that's worth of note is that there are a few theories for this, but Blood Moon was made by Angelic Warden. You know, like the Keeper of Life. You can see how that might be wrong. And then Angelic Warden accused Omnibus of being the one who made Blood Moon, which was pretty disgusting, considering Omnibus was pretty innocent. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Warden. So yeah, clearly not that many fun stuffs happened. You can actually see Omnibus's shrine all the way over there, and it's still beaten. And then finally, so, oh yeah, we have actually quite a bit more to go through. Okay, yeah. So, now it's probably a good time to call why the wardens are actually called wardens. Inside the game, there's merch somewhere, and when you click on it, it'll tell you that the actual reason the wardens are called wardens is because they protect individual parts of Sonaria. So, the Boreal Warden protects the icy fronts. Helion Warden protects the desert. Gara protects the volcano. Aegon protects the seas, which is also shared by Novus Warden. Ardor Warden protects the swamps, and I think also redwoods, and maybe Central. Angelic rules the skies of Sonaria and also Pride Rock, and jungle, specifically jungle, which is why it's so overflowing. Verdant owns all of Flower Cove, yada yada yada. Wherever you find the shrines, that's where they, belong. So, the wardens each protect that individual part, which is why they're called wardens. Now, there is one being that was created after a certain event. So, first we have to talk about Sarngaro, which would now be a Harutamuk, and Annie. So, we don't have too much details on this, but somehow, some way, somebody who will go unnamed screwed up a bunch and accidentally let two creatures from different dimensions come into Sonaria. Now, a creature from a different dimension coming into Sonaria is actually pretty bad. That can damage reality and stuff. Now, the two creatures that came in were Sarhangaro, which is now Harutamuk, which I hate. I loved Sarhangaro. And, what was the next one? Annie. Annie could draw power from a star in order to heal people, which, the wardens used a little bit after. So Annie got to stay. Sarhangaro was much more aggressive and actually dangerous. Sarhangaro did not stay. Sarhangaro died, and now we have a Harutamuk instead. So that's just kind of what happened with them. Not exactly an ideal situation to be in. But yeah. Now, since this was a pretty big deal, reality was literally breaking. There was a huge portal, and creatures were being very confused. The wardens created something to stop this. A simple being named Inkpujin. Now, Inkpujin is very, very important because he does something very special. He's a very special job. While the wardens only control specific parts, or protect specific parts, Inkpujin protects everything. The land, the sea, the sky, on every island. He protects all of Sonaria. Now, it's not just from disasters and stuff. Inkpujin protects us from interdimensional threats, or outer dimensional threats, sorry. So, there are a lot of threats out there, and the wardens made Inkpujin super duper strong, so that he could stop them from happening. So, as you could guess, it was a little bit hard for interdimensional things to come. That was until certain events that we'll get into later. Alright, next up we have to get into the Urzuk. Now, I'm not exactly 200% sure about what happened with the Urzuk. From my understanding, though, a certain creature on Sonaria started thriving, called the Urzuk. They looked a lot like the Shararuk, but they had wings. And were a little bit shorter. And Yeah, they were a little bit shorter, a little bit weaker, but there were a lot of them. Now, these creatures decide to stand up to the wardens and try to fight back against them. Obviously, normal beings cannot stand up against the wardens. So, the wardens won, and every single Urzuk that has and ever will be born was cursed. So, they have a little curse. They have two. The first one is that they can see the wardens. Like, not just the little puppets that everybody sees. Like, they could look up into the sky and see, like, the actual Serphelius just flying around over there, trying to protect his territory. Or maybe Gar and Quahal fighting it out with each other. And they can see how disasters start and everything. And they're super duper intelligent. And the second thing is that they were cursed with immortality. They can't die. And they also are like rocky golems. If you were to hit one really hard and then get rid of all its limbs would roll back into place into the shape of another one. If you were to crush it to atoms, those atoms would reform back into it. It is impossible to kill. The only way to kill it is from the wardens. The wardens are the only thing that can even kill Urzuk. So, that's Urzuk for you. Alright, and then nothing else really happens until one tiny, tiny baby threat happens. Just tiny, tiny. It's just that a certain thorn bush became really smart and powerful, took over its dimension, found its way to Sonaria, and then killed Inkpujin. It was stronger than the wardens. So obviously, a berry bush that was thorny, being stronger than the wardens, was a little bit of a problem. Now, thankfully, the creatures of Sonaria came in clutch here. All the little cracks that were being made were being healed by Munelli, Conferion, Annies, etc. And all of the stronger creatures were starting to destroy like the thorn bushes. And then other creatures started trying to remake Inkpujin with the parts of him that were scattered across Sonaria. Now, at this time, Inkpujin is dead. Well, he's dead in a sense. Inkpujin can't really die, but he's basically as close to death as he can actually get without warden intervention. He can still think for himself and things, but he can't breathe, he can't move, and he's stuck in an empty void. So it's a little bit hard for him to do anything. And he's also scattered around like a million different places. So eventually Inkpujin is rebuilt, and the virus is killed. Yippee. Now, present day Sonaria. All we know about present day Sonaria is that Quahal hates more Sivuhuk. Which all wardens have their grievances with each other. So, that, yeah, just whatever. And the last thing that we know is how Sonaria is going to end. Now, there are 3 wardens we have to mention that are most likely going to help contribute to the end. The Lionheart, Serphelius, the Righteous, Leviathan, and the Wicked, Quahal. So, it's unknown exactly how all of these 3 are going to contribute. We know that what Quahal is going to do, though. Well, Hall is going to attempt to perfect Sonaria in his eyes, which would be to make Sonaria not perfect. He's going to turn everything, all the Warden's territory, everything into an icy tundra. He's super duper scary and super duper bad, and it's very evil and wah. Yeah. I don't know how the others are gonna do their thing, but they will probably. I don't know, that day hasn't come yet and it probably never will. Anyways, that concludes Sonaria's lore as of now. And that's about everything we know. So bye bye.